Samantha Reed never imagined that one blind date could change her entire life. It started on a rainy Thursday afternoon at the local cafe where she met her best friend, Emma. The smell of freshly ground coffee filled the air as Emma leaned across the table, her eyes gleaming mischievously. "Sam, you've been working non-stop and haven't gone out in forever," she said, stirring her cappuccino. "You need to meet someone. I've got the perfect guy." Samantha sighed, her fingers curling around her mug. "Blind dates never go well for me. Remember the guy who brought his mother? Or the one who asked if I could cook before even asking my last name?" Emma laughed. "Okay, yes, but this one's different. His name's Daniel. He's kind, humble, and actually listens. Trust me, just dinner." Samantha hesitated. As a single mom to 6-year-old Noah, her time and energy were already stretched thin. Between her job as a receptionist and her son's endless questions about dinosaurs and astronauts, romance had been a distant memory. Still, Emma's persistence wore her down. "Fine," she said finally. "One date, but if he starts talking about protein shakes or crypto, I'm leaving." Saturday evening arrived too quickly. Standing before her mirror, Samantha adjusted the simple navy dress she'd pulled from the back of her closet. It wasn't fancy, but it made her feel put together. She brushed her long brown hair into loose waves and took a deep breath. "You can do this," she whispered to herself. "It's just dinner." The restaurant Emma had chosen was a cozy Italian spot tucked between art galleries downtown. Candlelight flickered on brick walls, and the soft hum of jazz played in the background. When she walked in, a man stood from a corner table and smiled. He was tall, maybe in his mid-30s, with sandy brown hair and kind hazel eyes that crinkled when he smiled. His clothes were simple, jeans and a gray button-down, nothing flashy. He looked refreshingly normal. "Hi, you must be Samantha," he said warmly, extending his hand. "I'm Daniel. Nice to meet you," she replied, surprised by how comfortable his presence felt. They sat, and conversation flowed as easily as the wine. Daniel asked about her job, her favorite books, her son, and listened, really listened. When she mentioned being a single mom, his expression softened instead of turning awkward like so many others. "That's amazing," he said. "Raising a kid on your own takes more courage than most people will ever understand." She smiled shyly. "Some days I feel more like a tired zombie than a courageous woman." Daniel chuckled. Even superheroes need naps. Something about him disarmed her. He was confident but not arrogant, thoughtful but not overly serious. He made her laugh until her sides hurt, and for the first time in years, Samantha felt seen. When the bill arrived, Daniel paid quietly and said with a grin, "Next time, dessert's on you." "Next time," she teased. "Absolutely," he said, "if you'll let there be one." In the weeks that followed, "next time" became many times. They met for coffee before her shifts, went on walks through the park, and shared takeout dinners on her couch after Noah went to bed. Daniel never seemed to mind her chaotic schedule or the toys scattered across her living room. He'd show up with coffee when she was exhausted, or with soup when Noah had the flu. One rainy afternoon, he even fixed the leaky faucet in her kitchen, rolling up his sleeves like it was nothing. Still, certain things about Daniel didn't quite add up. When she asked about his job, he'd only say he worked in management consulting. It sounded deliberately vague. Once, she teased, "That sounds like code for secret agent." He laughed. "If I told you, I'd have to make you sign a confidentiality agreement." Yet there were small hints of another life, the sleek black car that looked too new to be ordinary, the expensive watch she once glimpsed under his cuff, the way people seemed to defer to him when they crossed paths in the city. But Daniel never flaunted any of it. He preferred quiet moments, cooking together, reading bedtime stories to Noah, watching old movies. And Samantha found herself falling for him in a way that scared her. One Sunday, Daniel invited her and Noah to the zoo. It was the first time he'd meet her son properly, and Samantha was nervous. But from the moment they arrived, Daniel and Noah were inseparable. They fed giraffes, rode the carousel twice, and laughed until their cheeks hurt. Watching Daniel carry Noah on his shoulders, Samantha's heart melted. She'd forgotten what it felt like to see her child so happy with someone new in their life. Later, as they sat on a bench eating ice cream, Daniel turned to her. "You've done such an incredible job with him, Sam. He's bright, kind, curious, just like you." She smiled, eyes glistening. "Thank you. I don't hear that often." He hesitated, as though struggling with something. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you." But before she could ask what, his phone buzzed. He checked the screen, and his expression shifted, all warmth drained from his face, replaced by urgency. "I'm so sorry," he said quickly. "Something came up at work. I'll call you tonight, okay?" Then he was gone, disappearing into a black car before she could even respond. That night, there was no call. The next day, his number went straight to voicemail. Days turned into a week. Emma had no idea where he'd gone. Samantha tried to convince herself it was nothing, that maybe he was traveling, busy, but her heart told her otherwise. He'd vanished, leaving behind only questions and an ache she couldn't shake. 3 weeks later, she was sitting at her desk at work, sorting paperwork, when the office suddenly buzzed with whispers. The staff gathered near the glass doors, murmuring. "What's going on?" she asked. Her coworker leaned over. "Apparently, the company's new CEO is visiting today. Big deal, he owns like half the city." Samantha barely paid attention until the elevator doors opened. And when they did, her heart stopped. Daniel. He walked in wearing a tailored suit, his hair perfectly styled, surrounded by assistants. But his eyes, those same warm hazel eyes, landed on her almost instantly. A flicker of shock, then guilt, then something softer crossed his face. "Samantha," he said quietly, stepping forward. She stood frozen. "Daniel, what are you doing here?" The room went silent. Every employee turned to stare. "I owe you an explanation," he said, voice low. "But not here. Can we talk?" Her mind spun. She nodded stiffly and followed him into the conference room. The door closed, muffling the whispers outside. Daniel took a breath. "My full name is Daniel Hayes. I own Hayes Group, the company your office contracts with." Samantha blinked. "You're the CEO. The one everyone calls the billionaire ghost because you never appear in the press." He gave a small, sheepish smile. Guilty. Anger and disbelief flooded her. "So the management consultant thing was a lie." "Not a lie," he said softly. "Just incomplete. When I met you, I wanted someone to see me, not my money, not my title. Just me. And for the first time in years, someone did. You." Samantha crossed her arms, hurt warring with confusion. "You should have told me the truth." "I wanted to," he said. "But every time I tried, I got scared. You and Noah, you made me feel normal again. I didn't want to ruin that." Silence hung heavy between them. Finally, she whispered, "You disappeared, Daniel. No explanation. Do you know how that felt?" His voice cracked slightly. "The night I left, one of our companies overseas faced a crisis, a potential collapse that could have cost thousands of jobs. I flew out immediately and didn't want to contact you until I could explain properly. But then I realized how much I'd hurt you already." Samantha looked away, tears welling. "You could have just told me. I don't care about your money. I cared about you." "I know," he said, stepping closer. "That's why I fell for you." Weeks passed before she agreed to see him again. He was patient, never pushing, always gentle. He'd stop by with flowers, not the extravagant kind, just small bouquets of wild daisies, her favorite. One evening, he came to her doorstep, nervous as a teenager. Noah opened the door first and beamed. "Daniel, Mom made spaghetti." Samantha, flustered, appeared behind her son. Daniel smiled softly. "I was hoping for a second chance, maybe over spaghetti." That night, they ate together, laughed together, and for the first time since everything fell apart, things felt right again. When Noah went to bed, Daniel took Samantha's hand. "No secrets this time. You and Noah, you're all I want. I'll trade every boardroom and every deal just to have dinner like this every night." Tears shimmered in her eyes. "I don't want your empire, Daniel. Just honesty." He nodded, his voice barely a whisper. "Then that's what you'll have." Months later, Samantha stood in the same cafe where the story began. Across from her, Daniel was reading to Noah, who sat giggling with his favorite stuffed tiger. She watched them, heart full. She'd gone on a blind date with a man who seemed simple, and found out he was a billionaire in disguise. But in the end, it wasn't his wealth that mattered. It was the way he made her believe again, in love, in trust, and in herself. And for Samantha Reed, that was worth more than all the money in the world. Samantha Reed was not the kind of woman who believed in second chances. At least, not anymore. Her life had become a careful balance between early mornings, lunchbox packing, and late-night paperwork. At 29, she was both mother and father to her 6-year-old son, Noah. Her days revolved around making ends meet, and her nights were spent wishing she had time to breathe. So when her best friend Emma suggested she go on a blind date, Samantha nearly choked on her coffee. "Emma, please," she said, exasperated. "I haven't been on a date in 2 years. And the last one was a disaster. Remember the guy who brought his own protein shake to dinner?" Emma grinned mischievously. "That's why you need this. One dinner. No pressure. Just a decent guy, I promise." Samantha groaned, but Emma's hopeful look was hard to resist. "Fine," she said at last. "But if this goes badly, you owe me a month of babysitting." Saturday came too soon. Samantha stood before the mirror, adjusting her simple navy blue dress, modest, practical, but flattering enough to make her feel like herself again. She rarely dressed up anymore, and the face that looked back at her seemed older than she remembered, not from age, but from exhaustion. The restaurant Emma had chosen was a small Italian bistro tucked in the corner of the city. Candlelight glowed against brick walls, and the air smelled faintly of garlic and warm bread. Samantha took a steadying breath as she walked in. A man stood from the table by the window. He was tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a plain gray button-up and jeans. Not fancy, not pretentious. His smile reached his eyes when he extended a hand. "Hi, you must be Samantha. I'm Daniel." Her first thought was that he seemed normal. No cologne strong enough to knock her out, no pretentious grin. Just calm, steady warmth. They sat down, and conversation flowed as easily as the wine. Daniel had a quiet confidence about him. He asked about her work, her son, her favorite books, and actually listened. When she mentioned she was a single mom, his eyes softened instead of flickering with discomfort like so many others. "That's really admirable," he said sincerely. "Raising a kid alone takes strength." Samantha smiled shyly. "Some days I feel less like Wonder Woman and more like a tired coffee addict." Daniel laughed, a low, genuine sound. Even superheroes need caffeine. The evening passed in laughter and gentle conversation. Daniel told her he worked in management consulting, vague, but believable. She didn't push. He didn't brag, didn't check his phone, didn't try to impress her. He just was. When the check arrived, he paid quietly and smiled. "Next time, dessert's on you." Her cheeks flushed. "Next time, .. Over the next few weeks, next time became reality. Daniel began appearing in her life like sunlight through a window, gentle, warm, never intrusive. He'd show up at her office with coffee, text her good morning, ask about no school projects. When Noah got sick one weekend, Daniel dropped off homemade soup and a handwritten note, "For the bravest superhero duo I know." He made her laugh again. He made her feel again. Still, something about him didn't quite fit. His car, though simple, was new and spotless. His watch, the one she glimpsed when he rolled up his sleeves, was a high-end brand she recognized from magazines. And sometimes, his tone changed when he took work calls, sharp, authoritative, commanding. She teased him once. "You're suspiciously mysterious, you know that. Management consulting sounds like code for secret agent." He smirked. "Maybe I am one. Would you still go out with me if I said yes?" "Depends," she replied. "Do secret agents cook?" "Only for special people," he said, and her heart skipped a beat. Then came the day he met Noah. Daniel invited them both to the zoo on a sunny Sunday. Samantha was nervous. Noah could be shy with strangers, but within minutes, Daniel had him giggling uncontrollably. They rode the carousel, shared ice cream, and fed the giraffes together. Watching Daniel carry her son on his shoulders, laughing, Samantha's chest ached in the best way possible. "You're really good with him," she said quietly. "He's a great kid," Daniel replied, smiling. "Must take after his mom." Samantha looked down, cheeks warming. It felt like something real was blossoming. As the day ended, Daniel turned to her, his expression suddenly serious. "Samantha, there's something I've been meaning to tell you." But before she could ask what, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his whole demeanor shifted. "I'm so sorry," he said quickly, standing. "Something urgent came up at work. I'll call you tonight, okay?" And then he was gone. That night, no call came. The next day, his phone went straight to voicemail. By the end of the week, Daniel Hayes had disappeared from her life as suddenly as he'd entered it. Samantha told herself not to cry, but it felt like losing something she never truly had. To be continued. Part 2. The Billionaire in Disguise. 3 weeks had passed, and Daniel was still gone. Samantha tried to focus on work, on Noah, on surviving each day. But no matter how hard she tried, Daniel lingered in her mind, his laughter, his kindness, his mystery. Every unanswered question haunted her. One Tuesday morning, the office buzzed with rumors. Samantha, working as a receptionist for a mid-sized marketing firm, overheard coworkers whispering near the glass doors. "The CEO of Hayes Group is coming today," one of them whispered. "Apparently, he's taking over the company partnership himself. He's like, crazy rich." Samantha barely registered the name. She was too busy printing reports and refilling the coffee machine, until the elevator doors opened. The entire office went silent. A man stepped out in a tailored navy suit, flanked by two assistants. He carried himself with the effortless confidence of someone used to being obeyed. But when he turned his head, Samantha froze. It was Daniel. Her breath caught in her throat. He saw her almost instantly, his expression flickered from shock to guilt to something softer. "Samantha," he said quietly, stepping forward. "Can we talk?" The whole office watched, stunned, as he gestured toward the empty conference room. Samantha followed, heart pounding. When the door shut, she finally found her voice. "What's going on? Who are you?" Daniel took a breath. "My full name is Daniel Hayes. I own Hayes Group, the company your firm works with." Samantha blinked. "You're that Daniel Hayes, the billionaire who bought half the city's properties. The one who doesn't give interviews." He gave a small, rueful smile. "That's me." Her head spun. "You lied to me." "I didn't mean to," he said quickly. "When I met you, I just wanted a normal night, to talk to someone who didn't see me as a paycheck or a headline. When you didn't recognize me, I didn't correct you. I was selfish. I just wanted to know what it felt like to be real again." Samantha's anger flickered. "You could have told me the truth." "I wanted to," he said softly. "But every time I tried, I was terrified you'd look at me differently. You were the first person in years who saw me, not my money, not my title, just me." She crossed her arms, torn between fury and heartbreak. "Then why disappear?" His expression darkened. "That night at the zoo, one of my companies overseas faced a crisis. If I didn't intervene, hundreds would have lost their jobs. I had to leave immediately, and in the chaos, I didn't call. I told myself I'd explain when I came back, but I knew I'd already broken your trust." Samantha turned away, blinking back tears. "You did." For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Daniel said softly, "I know you don't owe me anything. But I'm here. No titles, no secrets. Just Daniel. Weeks passed before she agreed to see him again. He never pushed, never flaunted his wealth. Instead, he showed up the same way he used to, quietly, sincerely. Sometimes with wildflowers, sometimes with coffee, sometimes just with a smile and a simple, "How are you?" One evening, he showed up at her apartment, nervous as a teenager. Noah opened the door first and grinned. "Daniel, Mom made spaghetti." Samantha appeared behind her son, startled but amused. Daniel smiled. "I was hoping for a second chance. Maybe over spaghetti." Dinner was awkward at first, but as Noah chattered about school and Daniel listened attentively, laughter began to fill the room again. By dessert, it felt like the missing weeks had never happened. After Noah went to bed, Daniel turned to her. "I know I hurt you, Samantha. I can't undo that, but I want to be honest from now on. I don't want to hide who I am, not from you, not from Noah." She studied him quietly. "And what exactly do you want, Daniel Hayes, billionaire, boss, mystery man?" He smiled faintly. "Just a life that feels real. With you. Months later, Samantha found herself standing in the same cafe where Emma had once convinced her to go on that fateful date. Across from her sat Daniel, dressed not in a suit, but a sweater, laughing as Noah told an animated story about his new toy car. Emma slid into the seat beside her and whispered, "So, the blind date worked out, huh?" Samantha smiled, eyes full of quiet joy. "Better than I ever imagined." She watched Daniel reach over to wipe ice cream from Noah's chin, his face soft with affection. He looked nothing like the billionaire who graced magazine covers, he looked like a man who'd found home. In the end, Samantha realized she hadn't fallen in love with a billionaire. She'd fallen for the man beneath the title, the one who showed up, who listened, who made her believe in love again. And for her, that was worth more than all the riches in the world.